Hello and welcome to a new video on my channel. Today, I'm presenting to you the story MHA and the Mystery of Quirks, Part 7, and I hope you'll enjoy it. If you want to hear more of this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to recommend my channel to your friends as well. I hope you'll check out all of my stories, and if you really want to support me, feel free to share them even further.
Yeah, that's true. Not that I don't understand it, but people should know more about how this world works instead of repeating the same things over and over. This endless loop of good versus evil annoys me all the time. Especially when they keep holding the same prejudices, Hitomi says, a little more relaxed than usual. Ah, you sound like you've got experience with that. Do you have a bad quirk, or why do you look so unhealthy? Not that it bothers me. You still look fine, Izuka says, watching the other girl. When Hitomi's face flushes red and she looks away, Izuka is surprised for a second. It didn't seem like something such a pale girl could do, and yet it happens, just for a moment. My quirk, it's something I don't want to talk about. What about yours? Hitomi asks. I'm not allowed to say, but it's something that protects me. So yeah, I don't really know what I should say or not. Izuka shrugs as she slings her backpack over her shoulder and lifts it off the sand. Is it a quirk that's secret because of the government or for some other reason? Hitomi asks, intrigued. My mother forbade me, and I think she'd kill me if I told you. Which would be a shame. You're pretty, Izuka replies in that cold, lifeless undertone that makes it hard to tell whether she's joking. Strangely, though, Hitomi feels as if this girl understands her more than anyone ever has. Even the people she calls family were never as kind as this stranger. Their conversation continues, drifting, without either of them fully knowing why, into the past and all the awful things that happened to them. It's surprisingly easy to talk to someone who's had it rough as well. My quirk is mind control. And well, what can I say? There are basically two options. Either you have a flashy quirk that people admire and that can be used to kill, or you have a quirk that could be used for evil and is therefore dangerous. There doesn't seem to be much in between in this world. And as if that weren't enough, I think. Hitomi's voice breaks. She isn't sure how to continue. Let me guess. Some idiot said you used your quirk to get better grades or something. Or that you used your body to cheat for better marks. That's what a particularly aggressive boy with an inflated ego and a tendency to solve problems with explosions or fists told me sometimes, after a blow or two, Izuka says in that quiet, almost empty, lifeless tone that makes Hitomi feel the blood chill in her veins. I don't know how to put this, but I think you need help. That doesn't sound normal. If your school life is like that with someone treating you like that, you definitely need help, Hitomi says as they walk off the beach and onto the street together. To be exact, I started getting help this morning. But it seems like you could use professional help too. I don't mean to be intrusive. My psychologist said I have problems, that I'm too direct, that I don't care about a lot of things, that my indifference makes me say things without thinking. So, it's not an insult, but you don't look like you've slept in a long time. The unhealthy skin tone, the scars on your hands, the way you look around cautiously, it tells me you don't feel safe. If you want a safe place and don't have one, you can come to my house. I've got plenty of room. At least you can have dinner with me if you don't have anything to eat, Izuka offers, guiding Hitomi around a corner toward the wealthy district. But when the glint of luxury villas flashes in the sunlight, Hitomi can't help wondering if they're taking the right route. Look, I don't know exactly where you live, but if you're from the other side of this neighborhood, maybe we shouldn't go through here. Rich people can be arrogant, and they might seize any excuse to make trouble for girls like us. They could try to pin something on us, Hitomi says, uncertain. What makes you think I live on the other side of the rich district and not in it? Izuka asks, a faint, unpleasant smile spreading across her lips and an unreadable glint in her eyes as she pauses for a second. Well, you don't look like someone rich to me. Your clothes are a bit off, not fashionable, Hitomi replies. I thought you said you were tired of prejudice, and now you come at me because my clothes don't fit. So you want to say I can't be rich because of how I look? Appearances can be deceiving, Izuka says, her red eyes glittering with amusement and that half-unsettling smile on her face. But there's something deeper. Hitomi senses that Izuka no longer knows how to smile normally, That eerie grin is a mask, a sort of armor she uses for protection. A smile that functions like a shield against something.
No, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean that just because you don't wear the right clothes you couldn't be rich. It just looks a little odd. And anyway, if you were wealthy, why would you just come to the beach and mess around here when you could go to a gym or something? Hitomi says, taking another step and turning slightly toward Izuka as she walks. Well, what can I say? I went to the psychiatrist nearby and thought using my muscles might get me out of my head. Somehow it worked, Izuka answers in that same constant, monotone voice that sounds empty and lifeless. For a few seconds the two of them fall silent. Hitomi, for the first time in a long while, finds she can actually relax in the presence of someone who doesn't seem afraid of her quirk. How does your brainwash quirk even work? That sounds really interesting. You don't have to tell me, of course, but I had a little hobby for a while, studying heroes and possible combinations of quirks and how they could be used in different ways. I think there might be ways to make yours more effective. Maybe I could give you some ideas on how to use it better, Izuka says. I wonder what combinations would work with mind control. It's definitely not a telepathy quirk, otherwise Hitomi would react completely differently or wouldn't let me get this close. I don't even know how many telepathic quirks exist. There must be some other trigger besides just looking at someone. The way Hitomi hesitates to answer hints it might be verbal, or that it needs physical contact to work, Izuka muses, curious about the limits and possible pairings for a mind control quirk. Hitomi, however, seems reluctant to go into detail. So Izuka decides not to press further. They're almost at their destination when Hitomi suddenly speaks up and surprises Izuka. My quirk needs someone to respond verbally to something I say. Then I can control them, Hitomi admits, uncertain why she's giving this away, a reason why people feared her and avoided talking to her for years. Oh, that's really cool. Can you put me under mind control? What does it feel like? I'm curious. But let me out afterward. My mother would freak out if she knew. Maybe it would help me, fall asleep and stop thinking so much. I know that sounds weird and it's a strange request, but I'm genuinely curious what it feels like, Izuka says, leaving Hitomi speechless. Wait, what? You want me to control you, are you sure about that? Hitomi asks. Yes, I'm sure. It should calm my thoughts, and I'm curious what it's like. Also, I don't think you're dangerous. If you were, you'd have had plenty of time and chances to use your quirk already. Statistically, it's unlikely you'd make me do something weird right now. And if you tried, villains would come after you, and my mother would know where I am. So I don't think you could commit a crime before my mother stopped you. Anyway, I asked, so if you don't do anything dumb or criminal, it's fine. Yes, I'm sure. Put me under mind control, Izuka says. A moment later Izuka's eyes go glassy and she freezes. She stands completely still and calm. If she looked previously like someone who didn't know what to live for, she now looks like a puppet with no will of her own. Pull on your own earlobe, Hitomi orders, watching the strangest, most depressed and oddly fascinating girl she's ever seen tug at her earlobe. For a moment nothing happens. Hitomi is inwardly grateful that there aren't many people around who could judge or hate watch them. Okay, weird, you should be back to normal now. What happened? Hitomi asks. No, I'm lucid. That felt really calming. Can we do that again? I thought about nothing. It's like a free meditation. All the dark thoughts go away. I noticed what happened but, oh man, it was quieting. Can you try to put someone to sleep? That would be hilarious. I could actually get proper rest. Maybe you could make some money doing that. If you don't want to be a hero, you could put people to sleep. You could just call it another quirk. It wouldn't be that hard, I think, Izuka says, already thinking about all the things that could be done with the ability. Hey, I have a few questions. First, how exactly does your quirk work? Do you have to see the person or be near them to control them? Or would it work if they interacted with you over a microphone or a loudspeaker? Imagine how unfair that would be if you could use your quirk without being present. No risk, and you could subdue entire teams of villains. Next, could you control groups? If you could control multiple people at once, you could neutralize a whole villain team and make them fall asleep. Next, what if someone can't hear you? Does your quirk still work, Or do you have to think they reacted? If you only have to believe they reacted, then you could lie to yourself and maybe control anyone. That would nullify the weakness of your quirk. Izuka fires off so quickly that Hitomi can barely process half of it. I don't know, Hitomi replies, uncertain how things suddenly took this turn. As the two girls cross an empty intersection, footsteps sound nearby, slow, deliberate. A man in a black butler suit approaches. Well, you're finally here. Miss Izuka, may I ask who your companion is? Kurogiri says. A faint purple-black mist rises from his wise head. Kurogiri, I found someone I can talk to. I lost track of time. Her name is Hitomi and her quirk is great for relaxing. She can take away dark thoughts, like a free meditation. Her quirk is... Izuka starts, but Hitomi cuts in. No, don't tell everyone right away, Hitomi says. What? There's nothing wrong with that. Besides, I think it's silly to be afraid of everything all the time. My mother won't hurt you. Sure, she's frightening, but that's it, Izuka says, puzzled at what the problem could be. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, Miss Hitomi. But please don't use your quirk if it's dangerous. The lady of the house is special, and I think she'll want to protect her only remaining daughter very much. So, if anyone threatens Miss Izuka, well, we should go. There's food, Kurogiri says as his hand becomes a misty swirl. Wow, what's that? Hitomi asks. That's complimentary transportation, Izuka says, stepping through the portal and tugging Hitomi behind her. The mist feels oddly warm but not wet, and it's over as quickly as it began. On the other side the room is completely different. Gleaming walls, a high ceiling, more palace than ordinary living room. Izuka, I didn't think I needed to say this explicitly. Don't go around kidnapping innocent girls off the street. I also thought Kurogiri wouldn't help you drag someone home, a woman says from the far end of the too large table, sitting like a queen. The chair looks like a throne when she's in it. Her eyes burn red, like Izuka's, but far more intense and possessive. Her snow-white hair seems to have aged, but not her body, an age that has somehow forgotten the flesh. When Hitomi meets the woman's gaze, she suddenly feels the weight of the world press down for no clear reason. Mom, I didn't kidnap anyone. And please stop scaring my guest. Your presence is a bit overwhelming, and your jokes need as much work as my psychological state, Izuka says. So, you found someone you can confide in, but she doesn't look like she came here of her own free will. Did you just drag her in? Inko asks. Yeah, sorry, Izuka replies, turning to Hitomi with an expression meant to be reassuring. It's clear the family is not good at facial expressions. It takes Hitomi a moment to find the right words again and look up, no longer distracted by the ground. I'm just a bit surprised by all this, but no, it wasn't entirely against my will to come. I didn't expect Asuka to be this rich or to have a teleport quirk like that. I don't really have anything better to do than wander the city aimlessly for now. Miss, sorry about my manners, Hitomi says. I already like her. She's kind, Inko says with a smile. You two don't exactly have the face for making friends and keeping them. You really need to work on your expressions. I'm surprised you haven't driven everyone away with that psychopath smile. I'd say it's genetic, but I doubt that's possible, Hisashi Midoriya says as he sits next to his wife. Now, that's an exaggeration, Inko protests. No, you are. If I didn't know better I'd think you were a serial killer, a psychopath, or something. Your face when you try to be nice looks like you're planning something evil. Maybe you should see a psychologist. Or is it physically impossible for you to smile normally, Inko? Hisashi, seemingly the only calm, ordinary person in the room, continues. Hey, mister, if you keep talking like that. Inko starts, but Hisashi stops the intimidating woman with a friendly smile as he addresses the guest. To Hitomi it's a strange family dynamic for a few seconds. The man seems the least dangerous, the least powerful, and yet he's the dominant presence. It's odd, but not as unsettling as the family Hitomi remembers from before. Forgive me, my wife Inko is a bit special. She's not great at making friends, as you've probably noticed. My daughter hasn't had the best experiences in life either, so I'm glad she's at least found someone like you she can get along with. Hisashi says lightly, his voice calm and reassuring. But when his gaze falls on the butler, Hisashi's expression tightens a little, suddenly reproachful, as if his green eyes could pin the neat, white-haired servant to the wall by sheer will. Kurogiri, why did you just bring someone through your portals like that? That's a bit frightening when you don't know what it means, Hisashi asks. I assumed Miss Midoriya had already explained my quirk to her friend, so I didn't expect Miss Midoriya to simply drag her companion through the portal without explaining anything, Kurogiri replies. For a second there's silence, then footsteps draw nearer and the scale of the palace-like house becomes obvious as a team of cooks brings in plates of food. It's unexpected, truly an extravagant spread. The air fills with a mishmash of different aromas, and Hitomi can't help but, for a moment, mouth a small, embarrassed gasp at the sight of so much food. She tries to swallow quickly to hide how long it's been since she last ate, hours, maybe days, and only partly succeeds. Enjoy your meal, and hey, Tomi, help yourself, we have more than enough, as you can see, Hisashi says. At the same moment, Hitomi and Izuka notice Kurogiri preparing to leave the room. Why don't you sit with us, Kurogiri? Izuka asks, unfamiliar with how butlers or servants usually behave, especially in wealthy households. Apart from the cooks who prepare breakfast, lunch and dinner, the household doesn't have a huge staff. As Izuka shovels food into her mouth, she can't help thinking how meaningless the act of eating feels. Even if the meal seems more than just fuel to Hitomi, Izuka can only register the monotonous motions of chewing. But though the eating feels dull, the conversation is a different story. Maybe Mom could give me Kurogiri's quirk so I could make portals too. That would be cool, and then I could figure out more about it. From what I heard from Mom, the range of that quirk seems to be unlimited. The coordinates are there. But I'm not sure she can actually grant it. If she could copy it, she would have done so and used it on me. The fact that she hasn't suggests this warpgate-like, misty teleportation quirk has limitations and is apparently unique, which in turn means there are still quirks that are very hard or impossible to copy, Izuka mutters, her inner quirk nerd showing itself as she can't help whispering. Miss, you're murmuring again. Is something important? Kurogiri asks. No, it's nothing important. I was just thinking about possible combinations and ways you could use your quirk, Kurogiri, Izuka replies, pushing the last bite of food into her mouth. It's not surprising to Izuka that she's lost her appetite again and can't even remember what she just ate, even though it was right in front of her seconds ago. Time passes. Hitomi, Izuka, Inko and Hisashi Midoriya, and Kurogiri chat a little more after the food has been cleared. Hey, since we're all talking anyway, why not take a walk through the garden? It's meant to be enjoyed. I was recently thinking of putting in a big swing or maybe an obstacle course. That would be lovely. When I was a child it was my dream to have a little obstacle course of my own, Inko says, surprised at herself for wanting to build such an idea. It's one of those long-forgotten wishes that surfaces in the most unpredictable moments. Whether it's because Izuka has suffered without the ability to change things, or for some other reason, Inko can't say, but she can't shake the idea of a parkour play area, obstacles and challenges good for training, maybe even a zip line. Okay, while you walk through the garden, I'll go up to my room, Izuka says in her hollow tone, which still causes Inko a pang of worry. If you come for a walk through the garden, I'll do an experiment with my quirk, okay? Hitomi offers, surprised at herself. Deal. I want to see if you can put me to sleep with your mind control quirk. I want you to make me go to sleep, Izuka says, suddenly energized and curious about the experiment. For a second Hitomi flinches. Her purple eyes dart nervously among those present, but the reaction she dreads doesn't come. Instead something entirely different happens. Oh, how interesting. So your quirk is mind control. How does it work exactly? Is it telepathic, or is it a touch quirk? Do you have to touch someone to control them, or what form of mind control is it? Inko asks, as if she's encountered similar quirks before. I didn't expect such a reaction, Hitomi says, puzzled. What can I say? Mind control quirks aren't the worst I've seen, and prejudices against quirks are ridiculous. It's not the quirk but how you use it. Quirk, that word itself means trait. A quirk is part of the user's character. How that part shows itself depends on upbringing, environment and ability, which together decide whether someone becomes a villain. Anyway, Inko says, standing up. Kurogiri and Hisashi follow suit. So yes, I get what you mean, but I expected a different reaction. Most people wouldn't take it so lightly to hear someone can control minds, Hitomi admits, following Inko, Hisashi and Izuka out of the dining room. Well, from what I've heard, we've had no local super villain using a similar power to commit crimes recently. Nor have I heard reports of students being arrested for misuse of such a quirk in this city. Either you're almost flawless at covering your tracks and using it for criminal things, or you avoid using it and were bullied at school, like my daughter. Also, I think I'd be faster than you before you could do real harm. And I have other safety measures against villains. So I have no reason to judge you for something beyond your control. As I said, I don't think you use your quirk very often, otherwise I'd have noticed, Inko says as they reach the semicircular stairs and gaze out the large windows at the huge garden of the near palace villa. Hitomi can't help but marvel. This family is strange, yes, but at the same time more ordinary than others, not the kind that throws out children for having villainous quirks. I don't see a good reason to fear your mind control quirk, Hisashi adds, though I might not agree with all of my wife's phrasing. A quirk that controls thoughts isn't necessarily worse than one that kills. If you had laser eyes you could kill people quickly too. That wouldn't make you a serial killer, maybe you'd just use the lasers to make coffee. The quirk itself doesn't automatically make you evil. Just as they reach the bottom of the stairs and Hitomi begins to process all these impressions, a doorbell rings, then silence. Inko hurries across the entrance hall and presses the intercom. Izuka says nothing. Okay, come in. You can take a little tour during the walk if you're already here, Momo Yaoyorozu, Inko says. Yaoyorozu, isn't that the family who moved in next door a few weeks ago? What do you have to do with them? It's not like you've really been back long, Mom, Izuka says in a slightly high, curious tone, probing her mother's secrets. Hey, did you really think I was just playing lawyer in the States? My family is influential, even if I haven't done much with it. Where do you think all your wealth comes from? I inherited the connections and what you might call an economic empire from my ancestors. I wasn't very active in it for a while, but the empire still belongs to me and I'm filthy rich. Owning money doesn't mean you have to act like a rich jerk or that you even want to spend it. You can look up the Shigaraki family online if you like, Inko Shigaraki says, not addressing Izuka directly so much as speaking into the room while she walks toward the large, roughly 3-meter-high arched entrance. When Hitomi pulls out her phone, it doesn't take long before a surprised voice beside her is heard. Wow, I didn't realize you were that rich. I knew you were well off, but not this rich, Mom. I always assumed the Shigaraki family was just some moderately wealthy family from another country. I never actually looked them up, Izuka Midoriya says. But when Hitomi's eyes land on the estimated net worth of the Shigaraki family, her jaw drops, and in that moment she wouldn't be surprised if her eyes literally popped out of her head from shock. For a few heartbeats, the only thought in Hitomi's head is the number of zeros. Damn, I knew they were rich, but they're so rich I don't even know what that number means. How many zeros is that? It says they're among the wealthiest people on the planet. Am I mistaken, or why is the Shigaraki family so rich but so little known? Why does hardly anyone know all the members of the Shigaraki family? I thought a family that wealthy would have a strong public presence. But apart from one woman and 2 men, almost no one from the Shigaraki family appears publicly, Hitomi thinks as her fingers scroll almost faster than Izuka's across the screen. As the weight of the name sinks in, Hitomi can't help but wonder whether Izuka really knew how rich her mother was, or whether she only just discovered it. Even as Hitomi slowly turns her head toward Izuka, she sees no sign of deception or false emotion. By any measure, Izuka truly looks completely surprised by the unnaturally vast fortune of her own family. Hey, that kind of makes sense. Someone who's 200 years old has had more than enough time to create false identities and found multiple families. So it's not impossible that there really is a Shigaraki family. And the villain all for one might just be one of my mother's many masks. Maybe the Shigaraki family does exist, more or less. I guess I'd always assumed otherwise. But in the end, it makes sense that my mother pursued more than one goal and did things other than seize world domination. Apparently she had very effective cover identities and connections. To say All for One wasted his time over the last 200 years would be wrong, Izuka thinks, oddly satisfied that her mother is the most dangerous person on the planet and that, over 2 centuries, she created multiple false identities and became one of the wealthiest and most influential people on Earth, even if she was focused on seizing power. As the sound of birdsong and the warmth of the sun on Izuka's skin reach her, she wonders when exactly they left the enclosed grounds around the villa and approached the estate's main entrance. Momo Yaoyorozu is as beautiful and elegant as Hitomi. She has long black hair and dark brown eyes. She is tall and gives off an intelligent impression. She wears a uniform or at least something that looks formal. But it is Momo's words that take Izuka and Hitomi's breath away. I would like to congratulate you, Miss Shigaraki, on having overcome your illness. My parents are as pleased as I am that you are well again. Unfortunately, they are very busy right now and have therefore sent me, Momo Yaoyorozu says, her tone for a moment a bit too formal, with an undercurrent of loyalty or something deeper than mere duty. When Izuka Midoriya looks around, she's not the only one surprised by this reaction. Hisashi Midoriya and Hitomi are surprised as well. The only one who seems not to react, aside from Inko Shigaraki, is Kurogiri with his stoic, seemingly unchanging expression. Mom, what's going on here and why do you know Momo Yaoyorozu's family? Izuka Midoriya asks. Momo, I just want to make sure you know I don't want my family associated with yours. And if you could let your parents know that I'm grateful for their help, I would appreciate it, Inko says in a casual, relaxed tone as she turns aside, eyeing a path through the trees. Yes, I will tell them that, Momo replies, surprisingly stiff in Inko's presence. Mom, how do you know the Yaoyorozu family? Izuka asks uncertainly, wondering if she had simply missed something. Well, that's a story for another time, but you girls can chat now. There's nothing urgent, Inko says as her gaze sweeps over the garden. Oh, and nobody's allowed to talk about quirks here. Nobody uses their quirks, she adds, glancing back over her shoulder at the 3 girls, her eyes glinting with something dangerous. Izuka wonders if intimidation runs in her mother's family, if she's somehow genetically bad at reading gestures and expressions, or if her smile is as intimidating as one of her mother's brief looks. She could have sworn she'd seen her mother's eyes flash red for a fraction of a second. As they walk through the oversized garden, Inko seems to be enjoying herself, but the mood among the girls remains tense. Momo and Izuka appear so far removed from their own means, possessing so much money that Hitomi can hardly imagine it. Yet Izuka is sad and had to see a psychologist for something that was never taken lightly. In this case, wealth didn't protect her from having a miserable childhood. May I ask why you went to therapy, Izuka? Hitomi asks. Because a boy with a quirk that was better than mine thought it was a good idea to use me as a punching bag. Well, that and the fact that the bullying didn't stop at school but happened in other situations too, except at home, of course. You could say my dreams died. Right now I don't feel much, Izuka says without bothering to filter her words. The sound of birds fills the air as the wind moves through the trees, creating a calm, peaceful atmosphere. But this can't be happening. What about the teachers, didn't they do anything? Momo asks, confused. I don't laugh, Izuka says as her cold, empty eyes study Momo. Do you mean to say that people with quirks that would make them good heroes because they can be fast and brutal and maim others wouldn't be promoted by the system? Are you naive or lazy in your thinking that you never ask why people with unpleasant quirks rarely become heroes? Why do so many heroes have flashy, spectacular abilities, while someone like our Hitomi could end a conflict with a few words? Why does she struggle while someone thinks it's okay to punch problems away and set off explosions in my face or stomach? How does someone like that get so big an ego that they think they can do anything without fearing exposure? Do you really think anyone would take the time to record this if being allowed into UA is the greatest honor a school can have? To let one of its students into the hero school or make them a hero? Would anyone report the misdeeds of a powerful person against a weak one? To whom would you report, if the system worked as it should? The police would look at a young bundle of aggression like dynamite and think, ah yes, he has a cool quirk, so he'll surely be a good hero. No one wants to stand in front of living dynamite and get blown up. But nobody wants to stop that potential hero's path either, because the cycle keeps going. Izuka spits out, her words almost venomous, and it's her cold, empty eyes that make Momo feel the blood run cold. If you put it like that, well, that doesn't sound great, Momo says, unsure what to reply. The gentle splashing of a small fountain by the path is heard, but Izuka sees it in those almost black-brown eyes. None of what she said has landed. Even as Izuka ponders the connection between Momo and her family, she wonders how much the Yaoyorozu family knows about the true nature of the founder of the Shigaraki family and whether they might actually be villains. But it would be strange if the Yaoyorozu family raised their daughter to be entirely ignorant of the Shigaraki family's villainous side, if they even knew it themselves. Well, maybe they simply didn't tell their daughter anything about their villain side, and she chose on her own to become a superhero in this rotten society where the hero system creates and provokes villains, just like light and shadow create order and chaos. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy if you think about it. Heroes fight villains because hero discrimination against quirkless people or those with villainous quirks pushes them toward villainy. It's neglect, discrimination, and misdiagnosis of quirks or quirk instability that leads to this endless loop of good and evil. That's what bothers me about this world. Something that doesn't feel meaningless. Is this what I was looking for? Something worth living for, beyond my mother? I can't just end it now that she's back. Then Mom would become AFO again and destroy everything. I'd understand the anger. I'd want to destroy everything too if I were in her place and the world had driven my daughter to suicide. I'd probably have gone insane long before if I were 200 years old. But I wonder if I'm already crazy. What is normal anyway? Izuka wonders as her eyes fall on her mother, who is speaking with someone, a gardener or another staff member who had never really stood out. Lol, we have security. I have staff and soldiers protecting this home. I hadn't really noticed them. Have I always ignored them, or they knew? I mean, I once managed to sneak out. Maybe I didn't sneak out as unnoticed as I thought. They watched me at night. Well, either way, I don't care, Izuka thinks. Izuka's right, the world isn't fair. Even if I try, nobody trusts me, Hitomi says, surprised at her own words. What do you mean by that? Momo asks. What can I say? I could make you kill yourself. I have a quirk that scares people, but at least they don't hit me if they're afraid of me, Hitomi says, unsure where these dark thoughts came from. What do you mean? Momo asks, frightened. See, that's it. Your reaction proves my point. Besides, that could be a lie. Hitomi here could be telling some garbage about her power and 80% of people would believe she's telling the truth or would be those stupid people who like to list their quirks, weaknesses, and traits in a tidy register. I can't, for the life of me, understand how I didn't see it before. The gaps are so obvious, Izuka says, her eyes beginning to glow with a murderous red light. What do you mean by lies and weaknesses? Momo asks, completely flustered. What else? What so many superheroes have been doing for years. Since I was a child, it's been obvious to me. I thought it was a strategy to keep villains at bay or mislead them with false information. But no, every month on TV I see some hero think it's clever to explain their abilities before they attack. That's ridiculous, stupid, and idiotic in every possible way. If I were a supervillain, it would take me only a few weeks of preparation to eliminate any chosen hero or villain, Izuka says, without the slightest hint of arrogance. What do you mean it would only take a few weeks? Momo asks, and Izuka gives her a look as if she were naive. I think quirks have made people dumber. I mean, you ask me that question. Obviously the first step to becoming a super villain would be to recruit people society has neglected, gather them around you, help a few neglected children into hero schools to create free spies among the heroes. Then I'd only need a way into the hero association, steal or copy the registry of quirks, or I might not even need to do that. I could use the publicly available records and documented footage, draw conclusions, run low-risk experiments on the hero I want to take down, create a setup, or simply place a big enough bomb near the hero's home and boom. Done. A hero's identity isn't even truly secret nowadays, so I can't understand why this isn't exploited more often. I could so easily kill so many heroes, if that were ever a useful goal, which I highly doubt. Killing heroes or villains does nothing helpful, it just fights the symptoms of this society. If I keep locking up or killing villains, it won't stop the process. Whether I become a hero, a villain, or something else, nothing I do will change the system. It's an endless loop, and I don't have the power to turn the world upside down. Well, if I did, people would call me a villain again, not that I would be one. It's just that what people fear, the thing that threatens their society, what's new and revolutionary, is labeled dangerous. If you don't believe me, look at the Horizon Corporation, a company that offers advice on how to use your quirk usefully in society. Izuka says, the thought occurring that the size of Horizon and the surprising support it receives from many people is abnormal, aside from the fact that a new industry is unfolding, one in which people's abilities are judged useful or useless rather than good or evil. Such a system shouldn't get so much support in the US, where there is also a strong, entrenched hero organization. Yet their hero society seems powerless to stop Horizon's explosive growth. Why do I get the feeling that Horizon Corporation's explosive growth isn't normal? Something about Horizon is fundamentally off. I don't think we've ever seen growth like this. And the donations and sponsorships don't add up. The reaction should be different. There's something fishy about Horizon. The number and type of sponsors don't match. I mean, all those hero families should be trying to suppress a change like this, because Horizon threatens the endless cycle the system depends on. Discrimination and the creation of new supervillains would go down. Crime rates in the US would drop. And all of that because a company offers people a legal place to use their quirks while working for Horizon. Because Horizon finds a way around the overly strict quirk regulation laws, they can make much more effective use of those abilities. People don't like that change, but the number of people opposing Horizon in the US is far smaller than it should be. Izuka thinks, her gaze still on Momo, the classic example of someone either too lazy or too naive to see the system's flaws, and too unimaginative about life's problems. Those are pretty radical views, but unfortunately I can't come up with a good rebuttal. Why do I even feel like I should argue against this? Momo wonders as her parents' words resurface in her mind. Okay, I have to stay polite and respectful. Even if I disagree, I must remember how influential and powerful the Shigaraki family is. I can't say for sure whether the official estimates of their wealth are accurate. The market value of their companies and properties could easily be hidden. So I don't know how truly rich the Shigaraki family is. But judging by the way my parents speak of them, respectfully, even a bit fearfully, they must be very influential. I need to be cautious. Momo thinks, just as Hitomi breaks the silence between them. I agree with Izuka. Society has a problem here. Above all, it's a problem that superheroes' identities aren't really secret. It's like being a glorified soldier who's now licensed to use his power in public and, because of that license, can execute people he labels as villains in the street. And there's the whole issue of collateral damage and civilians who die in fights between top-tier heroes and villains. They get almost no attention. My classmate's parents died 2 months ago in a huge explosion because someone's quirk simply blasted fire in all directions. The villain fought a hero, things escalated, and 30 people were burned alive. The Hero Association called it an unfortunate accident and labeled it the work of a villain who took lives. If someone with a quirk that doesn't fit the good or evil mold had been there, they might have stopped the villain without anyone getting hurt. Hitomi says, confident. How could I not have heard about that on the news? Momo asks. Because the Hero Association doesn't want bad publicity. Imagine the fallout if all the supervillains got the attention they deserve. Think about the victims and the families who lose someone every month because someone decided a little money was worth using their quirk to burn a house down. Or take the ice incident in northern Japan. Over 100 people froze to death during a fight between a hero and a villain. Nobody cared that 100 people died. Everyone was enthralled by how spectacular the fight was. Collateral damage and the cleanup afterward don't make the headlines, because that would force people to face how the quirkless suffer and how society's mistreatment creates villains. That's why the 20% of people without quirks, the quirkless, have the highest suicide rates and why their numbers are dropping. If Horizon hadn't hired so many quirkless people in the US, there'd be far more petty criminals and far more people treated as expendable victims in conflicts. Izuka says, voice mixing despair and anger at a rotten society that treats heroes as the pinnacle of justice while ignoring everything else. But the conversation doesn't end there. Hitomi, Momo and Izuka have found something worth arguing about. It quickly becomes clear that Hitomi and Izuka are on the same side. It's not just the words that unsettle Momo, it's their logic, sharp enough that it's hard to dismiss. Even if Hitomi and Izuka don't share identical perspectives, their views are similar enough. This world needs changing. Not gently, perhaps, but in a more radical way, and both women are unsure how to start. Why didn't I ever focus on the suffering that's happening? Why didn't I look into how the quirkless live? Why did I assume everything was fine? Momo asks herself as the conversation chips away at her worldview. Every example and every argument the two girls make feels like another crack forming in her old assumptions, as if an earthquake were opening fissures, not in the earth but in her belief system. Okay, I've had enough, girls. Izuka, I've told security that if some walking stick of dynamite shows up, you may use force to keep them away. I thought you'd rather not see him and that the most effective method is to prevent him from storming in. Inko Shigaraki says, followed closely by two unnervingly similar men. Two men in black suits appear, their slightly bluish skin moving with a faint unnaturalness. It's not only the men who draw Izuka's attention, but the glint in her mother's red eyes. It's as if there's more she wants to say, an aura radiates from Inko. If one didn't already know that Inko is all for one, the presence would still feel strange, like a queen without a kingdom. Is this power a quirk, or is it just inherently conscious? Izuka wonders, feeling the barely contained force in front of her. This is a woman who could, if she chose, become the thing she once was. All for one, the most dangerous villain in the world's history. We need to talk, daughter. Do you still want to go to UA Hero School? If so, we can train for the entrance exam together. It's in 10 months. If you don't want to, I'll still support you, Inko says. I still want to go to UA even if I think the system is rusty. It won't hurt to have a hero license. It's not like I have to save people or anything. Most heroes don't actually do that anyway, Izuka replies, thinking it over. But that's the hero's job. Momo tries to defend her worldview. I thought you were smart. Scratch that. You only see what the heroes want you to see. Do you really think there are true heroes left? People who don't just talk to cameras more than they save lives. Think, what do heroes gain if it's not on the screens? Why do they get more money the more crimes they stop? If people get richer for stopping crimes, what will they do? They'll exploit it and pretend quirkless people are criminals or mutants. Most heroes care more about themselves than others. So yeah, people are dumber and don't question things, whatever, you won't understand. Like everyone else, Izuka snaps. And do you want to be a hero, or something else? Inko asks, smiling, a smile that would terrify anyone else. I don't know, but I figure it can't hurt to think about it. Having influence inside the hero world is useful. There are heroes who only do ads because they can publicly use their quirks, so even if I don't want to save people, having a license won't hurt, and it's not that hard to get one. And I have you, Mom. Izuka leans into her mother's arms. It's strangely tender to see someone so powerful and influential still capable of softness. It's odd, if All for One fought All Might, she couldn't just be a normal woman. But her body looks as normal as mine. It's not rigid like stone or hard as diamond, Izuka thinks as she reluctantly pulls away from her mother. Without warning, explosions ring out in the streets, one after another. In Musudafu this might not be unusual, but the sounds feel familiar to Izuka, and her body begins to tremble involuntarily, which Inko notices immediately. The fact that another quirk now rests inside One for One, combined with Izuka's hyper-regeneration quirk, means injuries from explosions won't last long. Yet an ice-cold dread spreads through Izuka's chest. Please don't let him hurt me, Izuka whispers as the trauma returns full force. I won't, Izuka, Inko answers, rising to her feet. Hitomi, my daughter's bully is here. I need you to help calm her down. Kurogiri, protect the three of them. If he gets close, take them away. And everyone else, you may use force. This is an intruder who intends to hurt someone I care about, Inko orders. Yes, Miss Shigaraki. The men in suits reply in unison.
And that's it for today's YouTube video, MHA and the Mystery of Quirks. I hope you enjoyed part 7 of my story today. If you'd like to listen to more of this story, you can click on the left side of the screen. There you'll find the newest video I've uploaded. And on the right side of the screen, you'll see the link to the playlist. I hope to see you again in the next video. Until next time, bye!